The Business Oddcast.
Hello and welcome to the Business Oddcast. This is episode 22. I'm your host, Stuart Morrison, and this is
Hannah Logan. Hello.
Fantastic.
Welcome.
Hello, Hannah. Now, it's February, and February is a new topic, and this month's topic is connecting and communication, which includes relationships, networking, and collaboration in business. So, Hannah, what's the topic this week?
Well, this is a topic that I really, really can relate to. It's talking about your needs and collaborating with neurotypicals.
Right, yes. Let's get into that, definitely.
It's a really good one. Well, they're all really good ones, but you know what I mean. So a bit more about it, really. I think sometimes as neurodiverse people, we can feel like talking about your needs feels a bit like a hostage negotiation, or it certainly does for me. I know that we are told to advocate for ourselves. Of course, everybody, just regardless of your neurotype, needs to advocate for themselves. But I think as neurodiverse people, we are often told that. And yet we're not really told how to do that without over-explaining, apologising for existing, minimising our needs. Like, I'm really sorry, but, we've all been there, right? Or feeling like we're being difficult. I mean, how many times in a day do I say sorry? People bump into me. Sorry, sorry I'm existing, It's just like...
Sorry I take up space.
Sorry I'm just here, over here breathing. And I think also, not trying to generalise here, but I think often collaborating with neurotypicals can feel a bit one-sided. Like we are doing all the adapting, masking, translating, emotional labour, and yet nothing really changes for them. So today we're looking at why sometimes the collaboration between neurodiverse and neurotypical people can break down. Also how to communicate your needs without the guilt, and how to sort of protect your energy when you are collaborating and the actual collaboration isn't working out so well. So this episode is about moving away from kind of please accommodate me, please accept me.
The people pleasing is strong in this one.
Oh my gosh, it really is. But we're aiming in this episode to take our listeners, watchers, towards kind of how do we work well together, and looking at it that way rather than, you get it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100% get this. It is hard, especially when the default communication style is a specific way and your brain doesn't necessarily work well like that, and you do accommodate. And this is a term that I've sort of mentioned in our house. I'm very keen to make sure that that the cognitive load is equal, because my wife does a lot of household duties, but it's not just the doing of the household duties, it's the keeping track of it all. Whose washing's been done, what load needs doing the next time, has the dishwasher been emptied, are the floors clean? Now you can say, Stuart, well, you can do all of that. I can, absolutely, 100%, but my specialisms lie in other areas. So if you don't want all your whites pink, and I did it
once, you'll only do that once, Stu.
but do you know what I mean? It's like the skill sets that we have lie in different areas, and I would no more expect Gemma to dig a trench in the garden, but when it needs doing, I'm quite happy to do that. That's where my skill set lies. So that collaboration thing can be really hard when the other side is not picking up as much of the cognitive load for the tasks that are being done, and you're constantly adapting and under load. I find that very difficult. And the communication styles where it seems to be there are these unspoken rules. People talk about it when socialising. In business, it's exactly the same. And if you're not picking up what the other person is telegraphing poorly, because let's face it, communication is two ways, obviously. But if the other person is bad at communicating, full stop, and then on top of it, their communication style is different, and you don't get it, I've often been in a situation where, through no fault of my own, I find myself entirely in the wrong. And you're like, I made all the best efforts I could to not end up here, and yet here we are again, where I have taken what somebody has said literally, done exactly what they've asked me, and then I missed out on all the subtext for some reason. You know, it wasn't clearly defined, or they asked me what they wanted to do, or they wanted me to do, and I understood it, I repeated it back to them, but actually that wasn't what they wanted. The outcome wasn't what they wanted. But they didn't know how to ask, or don't realise that they're communicating with somebody who will necessarily talk about things in a literal way. And I'll give you an example of that. So there was a picture on one of my social feeds, and it was somebody showing a picture of their ceiling, and a large part of the plaster had fallen away. And they asked the simple question is, what caused this? And everybody was going, oh, it's water ingress, it's age, it's da-da-da-da-da. And I put a one-word answer because it was the correct and only answer, and it was gravity. But it's what it was. Gravity caused it. What's your question? And this is, I think everyone should do a bit of coding, because then you understand logic. And if you put garbage in, you get garbage out. And for a lot of the time, that's what's happening with me. Customer puts garbage in, they get garbage out. If they accurately programmed the autist in me, they'd get exactly what they wanted. And I find that is one of the biggest challenges I face.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that. I find in the work that I do that I'm often apologising for asking what would be deemed too many questions, and sometimes that can be interpreted by the client as, does she not get it? Whereas I'm saying I need every last piece of detail, and then you will get my best work. But if you just say, write a blog about something, I'm going to need to keep asking you, well, what are you trying to say? You know, I need to deep dive, not because I'm incompetent. I need to deep dive because my level of detail is amazing, but I need, like you said, I need the good stuff to go in before I can produce the good stuff. So, but it can come across to a neurotypical client as like, why does she keep asking so many questions? And
also, I find that sometimes I need to ask clarifying basic questions, and the person gets offended, and you're like, no, this isn't about you. This is entirely about me, and I need to clear up these things so that we are not working on false assumptions, so that I don't make the assumptions differently because I have different understanding, different knowledge, different base information, different skill set. There's many times I've spoken to somebody and asked some basic questions, and we discover actually what they were asking me to do was not necessarily the outcome that they wanted. They'd made some baseline assumptions about certain things, or other people had told them, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that. And you end up clarifying by asking a few simple questions, and they go, oh, no, that's not what we want. Okay, great. Let's get to what you want then. And I'm not saying I'm a magician with a magic wand, but
you kind of are.
There's a lot of times I've discussed stuff with people and we've got down to the grassroots of it, and what they're asking isn't actually what they're asking, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm very similar. Sometimes in the work that I do, somebody will come to me and say, I need a monthly blog written. And I always clarify why. And they say, well, because I just need one. And I dig down to, oh, actually, you need more clients. Yeah, so somebody somewhere, Dave somewhere, sorry, Dave, it might not be you if you're listening, has told them, yeah, get a monthly blog. And there's no denying, I won't go down that rabbit hole, that's a really good content idea.
Yeah.
But I need to know as a strategist if that is the perfect solution in their budget and time to get to where they need to go. So they often look surprised when I say, what are you actually trying to achieve here? Because it isn't to write a blog. What are you doing? Why are you doing, all of that stuff? Because otherwise they've Googled it and decided they need a email campaign, or when people say to me, I need a cold email campaign, I always say, I will never do that for you. I will never, ever do that for you. Because for many reasons I won't go into here, but yeah, there's so many better ways to achieve that. I mean, that moves quite nicely into the next kind of thing, really, the ideas. So I think as many of us as spicy folk are expected to explain our needs before we've actually had the chance to fully understand them ourselves. Because when we need to communicate our needs, neurotypicals often need us to name that, but sometimes we don't really know what that is, and that can be really hard for us.
100%. The worst thing to happen is in a meeting, somebody to turn to me and go, "How do you feel about that?"
Yes, brain.
Can I circle back? Can I do some
I have
of
a
my
list here that
own research and come back to you? Or if you want my raw opinion, it might not necessarily work for you in this
I have
moment.
to edit it first before I download it into your ears. I mean, as you and I as late diagnosed folk as well, I've had so many, I'm sure we both have had so many years of masking those needs that I'm still a work in progress when it comes to fully having the confidence to share them, because there's a big part of my brain going, don't be too needy.
Oh, it's had bad outcomes for you before.
Yeah. When you're honest, you get, why are you so emotional? What's wrong? Oh, Hannah, rein it in. What's going? I won't go down.
Whatever the facet is you're exposing,
it's too much.
Are, they need sunglasses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Turn the volume down.
And I think there's, with that comes a pressure to kind of justify every request. I mean, I think I'm going to be bold here and say I think you are a lot better, for the want of a better word, than I am at, you don't over justify your requests, or I don't see that so much. I think you seem to have more confidence in your requests, because it's
taken time. No, but it's taken time, Hannah. It's not what I have decided, and I decided this quite early on. I won't get into all of my backstory, and it's not the place right now, but I decided very early on that I just was done with it all. I was just, I'm sorry, but if you need me, that's why I think I feel a lot of kinship with females and feminism. Put a smile on your face, love.
Cheer up, love.
Cheer up, love. Happen. Exactly, yeah. I've had that said to me on so many occasions, and it's like, I don't have the bandwidth for my face if my brain is doing the work. Just back off. And if anybody says something like that to me, I'm sorry, you're just not in my Rolodex. I would exit you from the planet if I could. Your oxygen privileges
yeet them into the sky.
Have been revoked. No, that's been a bit dramatic. But I have reached a point where I'm just not willing to put up with somebody who's not willing to work with me, literally work with me. And so if I say I need it to be this way, or I need to be this way, and they're not happy about that, then there's only one outcome. And that's my sanity.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And do you think that kind of, I guess over time that's come about, or you've honed a lot of those skills by improving your self-awareness?
Accepting yourself for the faults you have in all their raw forms. I know I can be a bit pushy. I know I can be a bit aloof. I know I can be interrogative with my questioning. But that's not because I want to see bad outcomes. That's because I know I need a level of detail, like you just said. And I need to put out some fires. There'll be some flashing red lights that if I don't ask the questions, they'll be there, and it will just stop me from moving forward until I get some kind of answer. So it's almost like I know how to manage my brain, and the customer has to accept that I'm going to be doing the thing in a way that allows my brain to do what they want with the outcomes we have discovered.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, because the point is they have come to you because they know that the work that you do is a really, really amazing level, and they know that. But to get to that output, they need to put, like you said earlier, they need to give you all the information you need to process to be able to do that work.
It's also very difficult when, okay, we're going to name a couple of traits that people might experience, like the alexythimia and the interospection. If you don't know what emotional state or how you are, I find it very difficult sometimes, to check in with myself. I'm like, how do I feel about that? If I'm put on the spot of how do you feel about that? Don't know. Haven't had chance to formulate where I land on the spectrum of yes, no, or what my actual opinion is on it. And over the years, I have regretted time and time and time again giving short, in the moment responses that I've later gone, why did I say yes to that? I should have said, at the very least, I need to think about this and come back to you.
Yeah, that's a sentence I'm going to start using this year for sure.
It really frustrates some people because they really want, especially in this day and age where everything is immediate. But I just work with people that know that if I say that I'm coming back to them, I will come back to them, and probably with a level of detail and questions that they're going to regret.
A sheet, a form to fill out.
But the thing is, I always like to think that when I go back with the questions lead me to an answer that I've already got. But I'm just checking that answer is exactly the thing that the customer really does want, not just the thing they think they want. It's a difficult one, it really is.
Yeah, no, but I can completely relate to it. A client yesterday sent me an email about, she was looking at a potential course that she might do, but it overlaps with a lot of the work that we're doing. And the question she asked was, do you think this is a good idea or not? And I thought, get yourself some popcorn, have a sit down, get a cup of tea ready, because my reply can't be yes or no. And I broke it down. But I started, and this is where it relates to our topic, the first sentence I put was, you weren't expecting a short answer, were you? Ha ha. And then broke it down. And actually she loved it. She replied and said, thank you so much for your thorough, intuitive response. This is really helpful. Even though she thought she just needed yes or no. Because I think over the years, I have had, unfortunately, not in recent months, some feedback like, it doesn't need to be in this much detail, Hannah. Or you're overthinking it. I mean, how many times do we hear that? You're overthinking it, Hannah. I'm not overthinking it. I'm thinking it the way that my brain thinks it. And that's okay.
Oh, no, we come back to the whole thing of they're underthinking it 99% of the time.
Oh, my gosh.
But this brings us to the preference and the needs.
Yeah.
These accommodations are not necessarily to make life comfortable for us. They're there to make life possible. And that's a difference.
Yeah.
There's a reason why certain things have to be a certain way. And if you don't let me have those things that way, then I can't do what it is you need me to do. So therefore it is not a preference.
Yeah.
A preference is, I prefer a cup of coffee when I get into work in the morning. But having low light and the ability to adjust the volume in my immediate vicinity means that I can't work in an office. I just can't. I've tried it. Doesn't work. Drove me nuts. Distraction after distraction after distraction, and conversations along the lines of, why aren't you keeping up with everybody else?
Because I'm better. Oh no, I'm going to get, that's it now, I'm cancelled. The Business Oddcast is over.
So how do you share your needs?
Gosh, what without over-explaining and apologising and saying, I'm really sorry, and oh my God.
Sorry for taking up space. Sorry for asking all the questions.
For being me.
In some circumstances, it's needy. In other circumstances, they see you as dim or not keeping up. And quite a lot of the times, people are moving at a speed. You're like, hang on a minute. What about these details? I can just see red flags immediately because you're deciding to do X, Y, or Z. How do you cope with all that?
If I'm going to be honest, I'm still a work in progress, Stu, when it comes to sort of advocating for my own needs without over-explaining and apologising and all of that stuff. I remember a good friend of mine that's very wise once saying, she said, do you realise every time you call me up, you always preface it with, it's only me. And she said, when you say that, it's a really negative way to frame yourself. What do you mean, it's only you? It's like you're making an apology for the fact you're calling. And I know I appreciate that's a bit of a tangent, but that has been a theme in my life for a long time. And I'm not saying that for any pity, it's just a fact. And I've last few years, I'm definitely much improved on it.
The over-explaining
Yeah.
tends to drive me nuts, because sometimes you like, how do I explain this in a succinct way that's not going to just sound so like needy just especially when everybody else is just nodding and going along, and you're like, I'm just gonna have to, could I ask,
No, absolutely that. I was in an online meeting a while ago, and there was a lady from a marketing agency there, and the client asked us both a question, and the marketing lady said, we were talking about SEO for the website, and the marketing lady said, yeah, that could work. And I was like, oh, that could work. What even is that? That's a not interested response in my brain. And I was like, I can't give you I can't give you something so vague. I'm either going to have to say I need to look into this. I can't just give you a yes and no, or just fluff it with a yeah, whatever. That's not the way that my brain works. And I'm glad that it doesn't work like that.
I think I've also been lucky to work with people who have over the years realised that I can struggle with a quick response. And in at least one customer's situation, I've been in a meeting where they obviously saw that I was almost in physical pain, because somebody was like haranguing me and trying to get me to either prove or deny what they were saying. And I was like, I need to go away and take what you've told me rather than argue with you here with facts I'm not fully conversant with. And the person chairing the meeting stopped and stepped in and said, we're not going to resolve this in this meeting. Stuart, would you like to take this offline and come back with some prepared answers for us? Was just brilliant management. Just somebody who spotted that this was just becoming an unproductive argument in a meeting, and there was obviously some research that was needed to be done, and the two people who were clashing over it needed to go and sort it out outside the meeting. And that said to me over the years was just telling somebody that I've noted what you've said, I will investigate and circle back, and actually doing that makes a huge difference if they can trust your process.
Yeah, absolutely that.
That brings us on to the next point, that collaboration is a two-way system. It's not accommodation theatre. It's not, a whole list of things that you need to do before I'll even get going. And this is one of the things that really frustrates me. There's a wider conversation in society at the moment with regards to neurodiversity and education and all of that. And this is the point. We're not asking for accommodations so that we can live a cushy life, feet up, everyone else pull their weight. We're asking for accommodations just so we can get through the day.
We just want to be on a level playing field, right? We just want to,
And this is where equity and equality get mixed up, because equality is giving everyone the same thing. So, okay, let's give everyone noise-cancelling headphones. Well, yes, that is equality, but it's not equity, because the kids who actually need those resources will then therefore be denied them because everybody's got them, and we've got to fund all of that. And do you know what I mean? Rather than going, there are some kids who need some noise-cancelling headphones. Let's just give it to them. Move on with your day. We don't look at engineers and go, oh, do you need ear defenders? Oh, bless.
you can't have them.
Stan over there has been working in the in the industry and is completely deaf, but he's never worn them. It drives me absolutely potty, these non-conversations which don't actually have any value other than political ends.
No, and don't you think, I think in society there is an element of it's not fair. When I had a chat with somebody 8 years ago about one of my kids works much better with ear pods in their ears with a low-level music. It's just the way that they like to work, and they're allowed to do that, or were allowed to do that at college. And this person who has a son that doesn't need that said, it's not very fair though, is it? Why is he allowed to listen to music and the other kids aren't? And I said, well, would your child benefit? Would they be able to focus better with ear pods? And she She said, no, not at all. I said, but so then you're upset about something that would not benefit you. That's really weird. Like, I want them, okay, will they help you? No, they'll make it worse. What? You just want them because somebody else...
Yeah, I know.
I can't get on that soapbox. But you know what I mean? It's not fair. Well, that's just weird. It's not fair that actually the environment that these people are working in is so noisy or so distracting that actually some people need an accommodate. It's just bizarre, isn't it? I won't get on that soapbox, but you know what I'm saying.
But you see, that's where small business, I've found, really works for me, because the people who will accommodate, will allow, will adapt, are happy with the outcomes and timescales, etc., they gravitate towards you. And the projects where you get to the end of and you go, for whatever reason, this left me with less energy than I got from it, they tend to go away. You tend to get rid of those customers. 30 years in, I see all the red flags on the way in. As soon as somebody phones me up and goes like, we need this done tomorrow, and then sends me a long laundry list of all of the things that they have decided need doing by, insert ridiculous deadline. We had one just before Christmas. I got a phone call from a very good contact saying, we need a WordPress website for a customer who's come on to us. But they've sent us a load of things and we're not sure what it is. And I read down this list and it was quite clear that they'd put their website into a piece of software, or somebody had done some report and they'd listed a whole load of things, and you're like, there's context around every single question, and if I have to now explain why that might not be a good spend for your money, and you're just like, don't care, just do it, that's not a good fit, because I'm going to be doing work that I'm like, this is just a total waste of time, effort and energy.
And that's bizarre, isn't it? Because they're coming to you, who knows a lot about this, saying this is what you need to do. Do I? Because actually I know a lot about this, so maybe I should have a look and decide whether, if you're going to just give me a to-do list. I mean, firstly, my PDA is like, no. I get a list and I'm like, oh, that's not happening for 2 months. Throw that out. Because I can't be... I can't be told what to do. And I don't mean that in a kind of defiant, obnoxious way. But the moment I feel like I'm being told, you know how that works. But
there's that internal resistance for sure. And that happens as well, though, with bad communication. Because in your head, you're like, I need this accommodation, or I need to ask this question, or I need this presented in a way that is different to the way that you've presented it. That's not the way my brain works. If they're not prepared to work with you on that, they're not going to be prepared to work with you in a collaborative way going forwards, and that for me is a red flag. So I make sure that I make my demands for my accommodations very early on well known, and use them as a filter. Because if somebody doesn't want to work that way, it's never going to work. So they might as well know that day one. And yes, the money goes away with the customer, but with it goes away with all the stress attached to that money.
Yeah, because that whole project would just be a masking exercise, right? Oh, when I've worked with clients, and I'm still not fully perfected on this, so I hope none of my clients are listening. I'm still not fully perfected on this, because I do still do occasionally bits of work where I'm having to pretend that I'm not exactly who I am. And that's frustrating for me. And like you said, the money goes away, but actually so does, if you turn that project down, but then so does all of that emotional drainage and stress. And you've just said that, but dearie me. So what about, Stuart, how do you find it when communication styles clash? For example, we've talked about the way that we can, as neurodiverse people, be quite direct, or some of us can, looking at the sort of direct and indirect communication styles and how that can clash, because that can kind of, or certainly has in my working life and my personal life, right, completely caused chaos. It's that miscommunication, really, isn't it?
Well, it's also building up a relationship. Trust is built over time. I will adapt, but again, It's knowing that you're adapting and what the toll is and how you recover from that, not just endless giving and giving and giving, because you just will burn out. You will burn out, fall over, and need to recover. And I've been there so many times that I now know what all the warning signs are, and it's a red rope around my time. I just don't allow people to, I think abuse is not necessarily too strong in some contexts, but it's almost like you're colluding in your own abuse by allowing the person to make you mask and do the thing in the way that they want it to do. And I'm sorry. I'll adapt in the short term, but there has to be some give and take. How do you cope when a customer it's not being difficult, but it's just ignoring your needs in the relationship?
Oh, that's a really good question. So how do I cope when my... I think I'm getting better at it, but I'm still not great at advocating my needs. But I have... for example, when we're looking at sort of communication styles, and I'm sure you have your own... Well, you must have your own preferences too. I think everybody does. But for me, I'm not great at on-the-spot quizzing, so I would always pick an email response over a phone call. I mean, I've had in the past people, we've done a little bit of a back and forth. I want a phone call. Well, actually, personally, I'm better explaining my needs in this detail on an email. So how do I cope with stuff like that? Like I said, I'm getting better at it, but I have to advocate for I know the best ways of communication for me. For example, I prefer, if we're going to have a call, I need it to be a FaceTime or actually probably ideally just a meeting, an online meeting. I need to be able to see their face. It's the way I communicate better. Actually, you'll get the best out of me if we communicate that way. So,
well, you see, this comes to a really interesting point, and I see this quite a lot. The business owner feels subservient to the person with the money and the work, and I don't have that view. Landscape doesn't exist in my head. All I see is a problem that somebody wants solved, and if you want that problem solved by me, this is how I do that. And if that's not what you want, bye. Very, very quickly, very simply. I now, hey, look, it doesn't come easy. There is a financial complication, because the money goes away or whatever. But that's why if you do have to do something and you're not happy with it, make sure that you know that it's for either a finite amount of time or a project length, or I think where the burnout comes is where you don't find a way out and you suddenly feel like you're in a prison. And I've been that person. I've been there, and I'm just unwilling to go there because that's not a good outcome for me in my life. So if somebody rocks up with all the money in the world and goes, I want it done like this and I want it done by then and this is how you do it, no, there's way too much personal cost to earning that money.
I think I've had in the past, and I'm glad to say that I haven't had it recently, but in the past, I've had clients where I've just kept hoping that they'll go away and not being aware that actually I have the power to do that, right? Because I could just say, I think we've come to a natural end of this project. But, I've been like, oh, please, I hope they don't ask me for any more work. And then they've sent me another email to say, could you just do this page on this website? And I'm like, it's ridiculous as I say it out loud now. I'm like, oh, crap, I really hope they would go on. I've done that with relationships as well, but that's another episode. Just hoping they'll go away.
They'll get the message.
Take the hint. Oh, Hannah, but you actually have the power just to say, I don't want to do, you don't have to say, I don't want to do that work, but I don't have the capacity at the moment. No, as you've told me many times, is a full sentence. It's funny, isn't it? That whole idea that because that jangly, that carrot, that ching, the cash, like, oh, there's a bit more money, and and if you're having a rough month or whatever, or you've already spent that money in your brain, which is often my case, then you're like, just one more bit of pain. Yeah. Just one more half day of pain.
Yeah.
But then as I'm saying it out loud, it's like a light bulb's appeared above my head. Like 2026, Hannah's like, "Oh, well done, Hannah, you finally realised."
But then you're just a financial hostage. How does that work? Suddenly my PDA kicks in. It's like, no, you won't have that over me. I'm not going to be your money bitch. I'd rather be poor. I'd rather have to write to 5 people and tell them why they're not getting paid than deal with your malarkey. So how do you cope when your needs aren't met, your boundaries are not respected, and there's pushback? How do you cope in those situations? Can you think of an example?
Well, Stu, one would have to assume that I've got any boundaries. I do. Like I've said, really, I am getting better at them. And I have, I've recently I put in a boundary where somebody was messaging me on the weekend about a work thing and I just didn't reply. Whereas in previous times, the moment it pings up, my brain doesn't go, "It's a Saturday night, Hannah, you're not in work mode." My brain goes, "Must answer, otherwise they'll find somebody else." But actually this time I was like, okay, I've seen it because I'm, it's like a squirrel to me when my phone lights up and there's a message.
Dopamine! Hello!
Answering me. But it pings up and then I'm like, oh, okay, that's a work thing. And I didn't reply. And I didn't need a big explanation. I didn't need to send them a reason. That was enough of a gentle boundary that was comfortable to me. And in the future, I aim for boundaries where actually I would have followed that up and said, and actually asked them not to message me on the weekend. But it's this first step, isn't it? That kind of, or don't reply. But they might get the hint. Also,
this is a major red flag for me. When I express a boundary and they get triggered and then there's a negative response, I don't immediately go into the, "Oh no, I've made them upset." I go into the, "Oh, that's very interesting. How do we fuck around with that a bit more?" And then the chaos raccoon with the crowbar turns up. And I would send, so if I got that at midnight, I'd send them a response at 3 a.m. Do you want to carry on with this? Because I'm up at 3.
A voicemail. A voice note.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, it's a bum dial. Sorry.
Oh, I did it again. Moved in my sleep.
So, I'm not one for playing games. But if I've explained to somebody very, very clearly, look, my office hours are 10 till 5. And if you've got an emergency where, we do web hosting, if your website's down, just send me a text that you've sent me a message and I will go and immediately raise a ticket. Yeah. I appreciate that's the nature of the beast that I'm working in. But if we're working on a project and something can wait till a Monday morning and they send me a message on a Friday, that's just never going to get, Friday 10 o'clock. Oh, please, bless. And if they push back, on the Monday or whatever, I get something like, "You didn't respond." I'm like, "Yes, it was the weekend and it was not urgent."
And I'm not your bitch. Regardless of, you could not pay me enough, or maybe you could actually. That's a different episode.
No, I think that if you express a boundary, and I'm not going to get into whether the boundary is reasonable or not or whatever, but most people are rational actors and are decent humans. If you say to somebody, and we've had conversations out, look, don't respond to this immediately, but I just need to share this bit of information or, this project on the Oddcast or whatever, blah. I 100% do not expect a reaction, a response or a reply immediately. That's... it's delayed communication. It's asynchronous. That's the entire beauty of it. Let's use that and to be able to be present when we're able to be present. And so if any customer ever sort of steps over a boundary like that, it's just a red flag and they will be asked very politely the first time. Then they will be given the underlined version of that and then there'll be penalties. There will be penalties.
Like paying penalties.
Yeah, paying penalties. That if you want me, okay, this is obviously... Well, no, you just explain to them, look, obviously my service level means that I'm going to have to change it for your unique circumstance. Responses at the weekend come with £100 cost.
Yeah.
I have to charge for my time, so
Yeah.
it comes. And I've got a customer who's a plumber, and the numbers on his prices are on his website. And on a bank holiday, like over Christmas, you called him out £250 an hour.
Yeah,
And he's
which
like,
is fair.
I was like, but Mark, aren't you worried that people don't call you? And he's like, exactly.
Yeah, I don't want to be called at Christmas Eve. And
he said,
yeah,
if they do call me and it genuinely is an emergency and I can fix it, I am charging appropriately for the inconvenience to me.
Yeah.
And I think way more small business owners need to understand that a lot of the stuff we do is time bound and time sensitive and project sensitive, and the other people are involved, and I get all of that. But really, you need a text on a Saturday? No, not going to happen. I'm not going to respond unless you tell me your website's down, your emails have stopped, or whatever, and then I'll go and investigate. But I've had way too many family things. Oh, God. I'm just running through the list of... I apologise to you profusely, Gemma, for the Minac. Oh, don't. That was a whole thing. Just don't. But yeah, when I'm out of office now, I'm out of office. And over we've had Christmas recently, and I didn't dip into my emails for 2 weeks. Went in, had a look through. There was a couple of minor kind of... no customer emails, but a couple of minor. One was from a supplier asking about a thing, which was not important, and another was from a contact who was asking about another project. Again, not urgent or immediate. And I think that's having good processes in place and good boundaries where people know it's not even worth emailing him. He's never going to see it, and it's going to be buried in 2 weeks of emails, so we'll wait. So again, it's being respectful of your own boundaries as well, because ultimately, if you don't say to somebody, this is a boundary and this is what I expect of our communications and our working relationship, how do they know?
Yeah, I'm not very good at respecting my own boundaries. I mean, as I said earlier on in this episode, I sent an email back to a lady that had asked a kind of yes-no question. That was last week. That was during time that I was meant to be off work. But the problem for me is I couldn't not read it. Not because I wanted to be in work mode, but once I saw a work email, I got, oh my God, something terrible's happened. Then I read it and I was like, oh, it's nothing terrible. It's just your average work email. But then I formulated the answer. At that point, I've got to do it. And no part of my brain in that entire process was like, hello, you're on holiday. You need to stop doing this, Hannah. My brain went, click, work mode. Okay. And the robot,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got into work mode and I could have either made notes and then replied in my work time, but that's a waste of a lot of my energy. Sometimes I'm getting better. Sometimes I will reply and then schedule it. Like I'll get an email over the weekend. I always do, sadly. I will reply, but I'll schedule it to go back to them Monday so they still get the message. Actually, she's not replying on a Sunday. I did.
Yeah.
I did, but I scheduled it so that they got the impression that I didn't. This brings us pretty nicely to the next kind of point of collaborate. How do we collaborate? If either of us have got any tips, how do we collaborate with neurotypicals without masking ourselves into some form of oblivion? Because the reality is, sadly, or I find this anyway, the reality is it's easier sometimes, or I'm rewarded when I'm masking because I'm more mainstream. So there's less kind of having to make excuses or having to explain myself, but actually that's not sustainable. I know that's an awful thing to admit on a neurodiverse, I'm not suggesting everybody listening that you need to mask. That's the thing we're trying to avoid. And yet sometimes for me, I'll admit, I've gone down what I think is the easy option, but it really isn't, because you can mask in that moment. It feels like a quick win, and yet you're paying the price for that masking because you're not being your real self, are you? So
if you're 100% masked 100% of the time, you that's not going to have good outcomes. Well, for myself, I found that didn't have good outcomes. Also, having no mask 100% of the time will also lead to no good outcomes, or not necessarily all the outcomes you want. Point to it is, and I think this is where my revelation has come. This comes from the old Buddha thing, don't live your life at the extremes, live somewhere in between, is that the mask is very useful sometimes. Sometimes, if it's a tool that you can slip on and use. I have a particular mask that I can use, which is particularly good in front of an audience. And Gemma sees it, you know, and to a certain extent, the outfits help reinforce it, because anyone wearing something this ridiculous is quite clearly not someone to take seriously. But I use that to my own best advantages where I can.
So, Stuart, here's the ultimate question. What does good collaboration actually feel like for you? I'm having to think about how it feels like, what it feels like for me. Okay, Stuart, so here it is, the ultimate question. I'm going to have a think about this while you're answering. What does good collaboration actually feel like for you?
I tell you what good collaboration feels like. It feels personally rewarding. It's not something that you get to the end of and go, thank God that's over. You might think, oh, thank God I don't have to do that, you know, hard work, or that was tough, or, you know, that took a lot out of me. But ultimately, some of the hardest jobs I've done recently have been really rewarding, to see the customer go, yeah, that's exactly what we wanted. That was brilliant. You nailed, you threaded the needle between budget, customer expectation, user interface, all of the unsaid things that we kind of alluded to, but you have nailed. I think for me, that's what good collaboration feels like, that the customer almost gives you a minimal brief because they know that there are things that they're going to have to ask you that they don't know to ask you, and the reason that they're giving you the brief is that you kind of read the mood of the room and go, oh, okay, this is what they're trying to achieve. You know, it's a little bit like walking onto if you're not a fan of cars, then, you know, buying a car is a stressful situation. So when you walk onto the lot and go, we need a car, and the person then says, oh, what sort of car, and then narrows it down, and then you get a really good car at a great deal you can live with. That's the sort of collaboration. You know, it's not without its challenges, but by the same token, the other person is working towards your best ends as much as you are working towards their best ends.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, and I think it kind of, I was going to say, for me, good collaboration, and you've touched on this really, it's that element of trust, but that two-way trust. You know, the person I'm working with trusts that I've got their best interests at heart and that I know what I'm doing, but at the same time, they trust that I respect their opinion on stuff. And do you know what I mean? It's that kind of, I don't want it to be, it's that really comfy middle ground. I'm not great with clients that just say, you know what you're doing, crack on with it, because I'm like, ooh, that brief is so big, it's going to take me the rest of my life to work with. You know, what that brief is, just do something, Hannah. What? No, I need detail. But I don't need the detail where, like you said earlier, you get a to-do list. You know, you could give a to-do list to anybody with a base level of you know, ability to follow a list. So it's that middle ground for me, which is really reliant on that kind of trust relationship between you and the client. You know, hopefully, probably a lot of small business owners, their new clients are coming through as recommendations and stuff, where they've seen the work that you've done, or someone's told them about how good you are. So hopefully that trust is already, or a good part of that trust is already there. And I also think that your reputation as somebody that delivers the goods is something that will be naturally disseminated. I struggle a lot with small business marketing, because a lot of the times I see people doing a lot of marketing and they're not doing the basics. They're doing pay-per-click, and it's like, that is not the shortcut you think it is. That's the cherry on the top of an already existing great name, moving forward, that
people trust and want to work with. And then, you amplify that message through social media and advertising.
I find, and I wonder if it's the same for a lot of our listeners, I work with a lot of small businesses, and a big part of that relationship is that reassurance. It's almost like therapy, that kind of, like you touched on it, the size of the problem and reassuring them. And that comes back to my point about trust, really. For me, a really good collaboration is them. I remember my husband saying once, to be an expert, because I think I was kind of having a moment where I didn't feel like I was good enough at something. And my husband said, to be an expert in something, Hannah, you just need to know more than they do. So I have that attitude with a lot of my clients. And don't get me wrong, if you're listening and you're one of my clients, I do have a lot of knowledge, just to caveat that. But my point being, you do know more than them at what you're doing. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come to ask you to do the thing that you're doing for them. So
100% agree.
I forget that sometimes. And it's really integral to remind ourselves and anybody that's listening. And a lot of my work with a client is not reminding them that I know more than they do, because that would be obnoxious, but is reassuring them, and managing if they're I don't build websites but at the moment, but if somebody's like, oh my God, I've imploded my website, you're not emailing them back or calling them back and saying you're a dig. You're like, okay, firstly, this is fixable, right? You're managing that kind of
calm hand on the tiller.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it took me a little while to accept that unless I knew absolutely everything, I wasn't an expert, and that I just need to know a little bit more than they do. But I think it's more fundamental than that, Hannah. It's not that you don't know how to solve it. It's you have a process of how to solve it.
Yeah.
To get to an end solution. And I think that for me, that's where customers' trust lies, that whenever I ask Stuart, he seems to solve my problem.
Yeah.
And when the problem comes in, sometimes I have to go and do further research, or I might have to go and talk to my team, or do you know what I mean? It's not like I can't say it's click whir. Sometimes it's a little more complicated than that, and that's where I think their trust is built, because he might be weird, but he does what he says he's going to do.
You're a safe pair of hands in that situation, aren't you? So, and they know from previous experience that you're reliable in that.
So I think we've talked around this quite significantly.
With the odd tangent, sorry about that.
Hey, the Oddcast is built on tangents.
Oh my gosh, that is literally my middle name.
So what takeaways do we have for our listeners?
Gosh, so there's quite a few, isn't there? But I won't rattle them off. But
Top three.
So I think if we share our needs as well as we can, it improves the outcomes for everyone involved. So that, for me, is really integral. Being true to yourself and sharing your needs with your counterpart. And remembering that you're not difficult for needing different things. You're not like, Hannah's a pain in the arse because it doesn't make you wrong. And actually, when you share your needs and you make that client or that person you're collaborating with understand what you need, and remind yourself that you don't need to make excuses for that. It's just a kind of, it's no different. I have back problems. If I go somewhere, I say, I need that sort of chair, or I take a cushion or whatever, and I don't say, sorry, I'm so awkward with my back problems, because it's just a thing. Yeah. So our neurodiversity is no different. We don't have to say, sorry, I'm overly thorough, or sorry, because you're not overly thorough. Sorry, I have to ask a few questions. That just means you're really thorough. Who doesn't like that in a business context? So, that would definitely be another one of mine. Any from you, from a kind of takeaway or a top, have we got any tips that we could share?
Yeah, I think that being aware of your own needs is paramount. Knowing what you want out of the relationship, just because it's one of financial reward and value exchange doesn't mean to say that you can't put some rules around how you show up, what you expect, and how you work best. Hey, look, you've got to think of yourself as an instrument. You know.
I want to be a cello, by the way.
Well, I'm a Stradivarius, by the way.
Oh, what?
Stradivarius.
Oh,
a very expensive violin.
That's way cooler than a cello.
But the point to it is that instrument needs to be calibrated. It needs to be within spec. It needs to have all of the various inputs on it that need inputting to work. Yeah. And if it doesn't, it gives a suboptimal performance. Well, you as a human being are absolutely no different. You put too many garbage inputs and you're just going to get garbage output.
Well, that kind of comes back to boundaries, doesn't it? We've touched on that a lot in this episode. But the boundaries are integral, really, aren't they, to defining what that working relationship is going to be like? 100%.
If your needs are not being met and they're being ignored, worse than that, you're expressing them distinctly, clearly and repeatedly, then it's time to walk away, because the other person either doesn't understand, and that's either a willful doesn't understand, or it's an ignorant doesn't understand. End result is the same. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're not going to understand, and if they aren't willing to meet you halfway, all the way in some instances with some of your accommodations, it's time to find a better customer.
Absolutely.
Catch and release. Catch and release.
Chuck them back in the sea.
Exactly.
That is exactly what I was going to say. Having that confidence to know when a collaboration is not working. Because if it's not working for you, it won't be working for them either.
Oh, 100%, yeah. So if it isn't working, you have permission from Hannah and Stu to say, unfortunately, this doesn't meet my needs right now.
Chuck them back in the sea.
Just, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Chuck them back in the sea.
Oh, brilliant.
Right, well, that's it. That's another Oddcast under our belts. And another classic review of all of the things that you will need to do to think about communicating with neurotypicals and communicating your needs in a small business. Hannah, what is the topic next week?
So next week is being self-employed without wearing a mask at home.
Ooh, interesting. So, yes, how do you tackle the challenge of being in business and being authentic and honest and true to yourself, but also, you know, taking the load home and sharing it with significant others, partners, children, pets, whoever's in your house or your household. We'll be discussing how to navigate that tricky relationship between you and the rest of the world, basically.
It's a good one.
So thank you very much for listening. Please do like, share and subscribe. Tell your friends. Doesn't matter whether they're neurodiverse or neurotypical. If it helps you to communicate what is going on inside to them and gets them to understand the world in a little more clarity, then that's a good thing. And that's something we want to do in 2026. So thank you very much for listening, and have a good week. All the very best. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye. Step away from PAYE. Don't do it.